everybody. I'm here to tell y'all a rapture dream I had that you will just not believe I had. Like, I feel like this is the one dream y'all are just gonna think I'm making it up, but I am not making this up. I really had this, but it's just so crazy. This rapture dream, like, I just cannot, I just have to say it's from God. Like, this, there is just no other explanation. This rapture dream was crazy. I had this rapture dream almost 3 years ago, about 2.5 years ago, and I just never really felt like I should upload it really, but today it just like kind of hit me, and like I started like almost shaking because like the Holy Spirit, it's like, you are gonna do this today. So here I am, and this dream is kind of longer than probably the other dreams I've had put on this channel, and I will try to probably shorten it if I can. But yeah, let's get into the dream. Like, it was just so crazy. The Holy Spirit's like, you are going to do this today. So let's get into the dream. So in the dream, I was wearing one of those headsets. If y'all don't know what the headsets are, they're kind of new. It's more of like a virtual reality thing where like it just makes it look very real, even though it's not. It just makes it look so real. And in my dream, I was wearing one of these virtual reality helmets, and I'm in this like virtual world, and I soon realized, I'm like, this isn't the real world. I soon realized I was wearing one of those helmets. So in my dream, I take the helmet off, and I was in my house, and in the dream, I can see behind me there was a window, and through this window, I can see Earth was destroyed. It was just horrible. Earth looked awful. Earth looked awful. Like, there was no grass. Like, it was just completely dirt. Completely dirt. The trees were dead. The sky was just, it was awful. In my dream, the sky looked, it was gray, purple, and green. And it just looked awful. Like, I don't know what happened. I don't know. And in my dream, I look at the helmet, and inside this helmet, I can see this blue line. It looked kind of like a vein, like a blue vein. And I'm looking at this blue light, and it's just going back and forth, back and forth. And right at this moment, God like told me, he's like, that's scanning your brain, and every time they scan your brain, they knew everything about you. Like, even stuff you wouldn't want them to know. Like, they knew who you loved, they knew your favorite color, just everything. And in that moment, I didn't realize until after I had the dream, God was showing me that these helmets, all they were used for was for control. Control, control, control. That is just what these helmets were used for. They were using the helmets to get to know everything about you. And it just took putting on those helmets one time for them to know everything about you. Yeah, creepy. Like, I thought it was extremely creepy. I thought it was so, so creepy. And in my dream, I started walking to the door. And in my dream, right as I was walking to the door, I just like hit me. Like, no one had to tell me. It was almost like telepathically. I just knew I wasn't the age I am now. In my dream, I was 37, and that's a pretty big age gap from how old I am now. That's almost like twice my age. That's almost like 2 or 3 times my age. That's a pretty big age gap. But in the dream, nobody had to tell me. It was like just telepathically, somebody told me that I was 37. So, like I said, I was walking to the door, and I just became like super angry. Like, just completely angry. And I'm like, I just was so upset. Like, it was an emotional, like, roller coaster, honestly. I was upset how people had let Earth get so bad, so destroyed, and I'm like, we just ruined, like, everything God tried to do for us. We have literally let everything God made just be destroyed, and it made me, I was just so angry about it. I'm like, how can we let everything, all the plants, everything God provided for us just die? Like, it just, I was like in an emotional roller coaster. Like at this point, like I was just so sad how bad Earth looked. Like in my dream, Earth looked awful. The sky was gray, purple, and green. There was no grass. The trees were dead. Like I don't even know if there was animals, honestly. Like if there was any animals, I didn't really see them. And in my dream, I like at this moment, like I have like realized the helmets completely took over. Like completely took over. Those virtual reality helmets had became the new world. If you didn't have a virtual reality helmet, you were basically a nobody. In the government's eyes, you basically didn't exist. If you were not wearing one of those helmets, it was as if you didn't even exist. That's pretty much how it was. People didn't even go outside anymore pretty much at all. Like, that just wasn't a thing. That just wasn't a thing. And to make matters worse, in my dream, the government was actually warning people to not go outside. And the reason is because if you went outside, you could get sick. Like there was, in my dream, I wasn't sure what, but there was something wrong with the air. Something wrong with the air. And it had caused the sky to look how it did in my dream. And they were warning people, they were like, don't go outside longer than 5 minutes. Don't do it. Or you could get like majorly sick. Like when I say majorly sick, I mean like pneumonia, like COVID. Like they were saying like really bad things you could get if you were outside longer than 5 minutes. And they were telling everybody, stay inside. And in my dream, like every day on the news, there would be like a big warning, like saying, don't go outside. Like you could get majorly sick. But it was okay to stay inside because inside we had like, I think it was like air purifiers. And it caused to where we wouldn't get sick. And they just kept telling people, like every day on the news, they were like, don't go outside. You will get sick. They're like, if you stay outside longer than 5 minutes, you can get sick. And in my dream, it was as if, I feel like this was a scare tactic they were using to scare people from going outside. And in my dream, like I said, back to where I was really angry, I was really angry just seeing how horrible Earth looked. I was just like astonished that we could even let Earth get that bad. And in that moment, I decided to go outside and clean Earth. I didn't care if it was just me. And in my dream, I knew doing it by myself would be pretty much impossible. Like, I would need help from other people. But I was so angry and just mad at how Earth looked, I didn't care. I'm like, even if I have to spend the rest of my life fixing Earth, I was like, I don't care. I'll do it. So I went outside and I started composting, which in my dream I knew that was a small step from how bad Earth was. And in my dream, we didn't have to like really do jobs anymore. It was like different. Like money was different, jobs were different. Like instead of having to go to the grocery store every day, you would just like get on your phone and you would text a robot. And a robot would come up and give you whatever you asked it. It would come right to your door. You didn't have to go outside and go to the grocery store anymore because a robot would bring you whatever you wanted. I mean, sounds convenient, but oh, my dream just gets like worse and worse. Like it was just crazy what I dreamed. And so, like I said, you didn't have to go to the grocery store anymore. You just text a robot and it would bring you whatever you wanted right to your door. And I felt like that was another tactic to keep us inside. So like I said, I went outside and started composting, which, like I said, I still knew was a small step from how bad Earth was. I'm like, go outside, take a picture. I don't think Earth is going to stay like this. Like, it was bad. And in my dream, I was composting, and then this lady showed up. And I would like to point out, in my dream, when I went outside, I felt like the air was more fresh than it was inside my house. And they were telling us to not go outside because we would get sick. And in my dream, it was as if I was like, they're lying right to our face. The air isn't even going to make us sick. I feel like the air outside was better than what we got going on now. Like, it's bad. And I literally was outside, probably, I'm not exactly sure how long it was in my dream, but I probably was longer than 5 minutes. Like, they kept warning us every single day, which just sounded like a big scare tactic to keep us inside. They wanted complete control over us. It was scary. Like, scary. And I was outside, and like I said, this lady showed up. She was an older lady, maybe in her 40s or 50s, and she asked me what I was doing. And I basically explained to her that I just wanted to clean Earth at all costs. Like, just seeing how bad Earth was has devastated me. And like I said, no one went outside anymore. Like, practically no one did. And this lady looks at me, and she's like, "You're cleaning Earth?" And she just bluntly says, "I didn't think anyone cared about Earth anymore." And that's pretty much, I was in the same boat. I felt like nobody cared about Earth anymore. That's honestly how I felt. And she just said that she didn't think anyone cared about Earth anymore. And she's like, "You know what? You should be on the news." She said she offered me to be on the news so I could talk about how bad Earth was, and I could try to encourage people to help. And that's exactly what happened. In my dream, I went on the news. Like, it was just insane. Earth had gotten so bad and so many people didn't care that I was literally on the news. So I got on the news, and I was just telling everybody my plan, how I wanted to fix Earth and just all of this stuff. Like, it was just crazy. And then immediately after I was on the news, people started realizing that the helmets we were wearing had really taken over our lives. Like, we almost became, I don't even know how to explain it, it just became this huge addiction, which this plays later on in the dream. But we'll get to that later. But like I was saying, it was just crazy. After I was on the news, everyone was just realizing how these helmets had taken over our life, and they realized how bad Earth was, and people felt awful. Literally, there was people saying, they're like, "We have disgraced our ancestors for letting Earth get this bad." That's what people were saying. They were saying, "We have disgraced our ancestors for letting Earth get this bad." And then in my dream, people were taking their helmets and just trying to get rid of them any way possible. And people were having bonfires. It was stacks upon stacks upon stacks. Literally, it was taller than me, taller than my dad. That's how big these piles of helmets were. People were having celebrations of burning their helmets. They would have a fire of helmets burning, and they would be dancing and singing shouts of joy, just so happy that they finally got out of these fake worlds. I'm sorry, I'm just getting a bit emotional. This part of the dream was just very emotional to me. Just people shouting joy and dancing. They're like, "We finally got rid of this fake world." They were so excited to get rid of it. But little did they know, the damage had already been done from them wearing those helmets. I'll get to that in a little bit. And, sorry, I'm just getting a little emotional. And in the dream, after I just saw so many people burning their helmets, and afterwards, I was standing on a pile of burnt headsets. And all these people started gathering around me. And they're like, "What are we going to do to fix Earth?" And since I was the first one that came out and I was on the news, everyone was looking to me for guidance. For guidance on how to fix Earth. They were looking at me. And just need a breather. And I was standing on this pile of burnt headsets, and there was teenagers, literal teenagers, ages 12, maybe 15. And they're like, "What are we gonna do?" And I just came out and told them, I said, "I don't want to fix Earth unless we can put God in it." That's exactly what I told him. I was like, I don't want to fix Earth unless I could put God in it. And then this little teenager, he was like 12, maybe 15, he said, why would we want to put God in Earth? What has he done for us? Yeah, he literally said, why would we want to put God in Earth? What has he done for us? And then the other people were there. They were like maybe in their 20s. They had started agreeing with him. And some of these were little kids, like 12, maybe 15. I consider that to be little. So, and come to find out in my dream at this moment, it was like God told me, I guess, like almost telepathically, I just knew this. And apparently, these people had like never been told about God. And if they had been told about God, it wasn't right what they were told. So in my dream, it was if like everything in the Bible, every Bible prophecy had happened. Every single Bible prophecy had happened. That's how it was in my dream. It was like every single Bible prophecy has happened except for God returning. And then in the Bible, if you don't know, God is supposed to come 2 times, not just once. He's supposed to come twice. And in my dream, God had came 1 time. It was like a long time ago. Like when I say a long time ago, not super, super long, like maybe 10 years ago. But people didn't realize he had come. A lot of people didn't realize he came because the government had tricked us into believing it was aliens. Yeah, the government had tricked us into believing it was pretty much aliens, but it was actually God returning. And a lot of people were upset because that's how it was in my dream. So basically, like a week after God had returned, but he had already left at this point, because I mean it's been a freaking week. He had already left at this point. And in my dream, it was on the news. It said every Bible prophecy has been done with. And this made people get so mad. And people hadn't like pieced it together really yet. And they found out that the whole alien thing that happened about a week ago was actually God returning. And people started like crying out. They were like, no, like people were mad. Like, mad isn't even the right word. Like, super, super angry. I don't know what the right word is. People were so mad that they had been tricked into believing what was God was actually aliens. And they had missed God returning. They had missed him. And in my dream, there was people literally taking rocks. And they were throwing rocks at the sun. And sorry about that. My family's been a little bit sick. But like I said, people were literally taking rocks and throwing them at the sun, and they were just like shouting, God, you better return right now. Right now, you better return. But God had already came, and they didn't realize it because the government had brainwashed them into thinking it was aliens. He had brainwashed them into believing it was aliens. And at this point, people basically stopped believing. They had basically completely just like, they didn't know what to do. There was people stealing, robbing, doing like pretty much every crime you could think of. Because they're like, God already came, I have nothing to believe in. But what they didn't know is that God was going to come one more time. That wasn't the final time he was coming. He's going to come for one last time. But people didn't read their Bible enough to know that. They didn't read their Bible enough to know he comes again. He still has his final time to come. But people didn't read their Bible enough to know that. So they were just doing basically every crime you could think of. People were like robbing and all this stuff. The government in my dream actually came, and he told the people, he was like, don't worry, God's still coming. He basically calmed them down. He made them believe, he's like, go back to your normal life. He's like, don't worry, God's still coming. And he calmed them down. And people went back to living their normal life, but they never really believed in God again. They never really did. Most of them anyway. And that's why when I was standing on that burnt headset, those kids and those children were never taught about God, because every time they asked about God, you know what their parents would say? They said God was supposed to come and he didn't come. And that means that what the Bible says isn't true. Because in the Bible it says God will do what he says, and he cannot lie. And that's what they were playing off of. They're saying, we asked God to come. Because like I said, they're throwing rocks at the sun, demanding God to come. And since God didn't come when they thought he was supposed to come, everyone just believed that God wasn't real. And every time their kids would ask, they would just be like, well, God didn't come when we thought he was supposed to, so he isn't real. He isn't real because we didn't think God was sorry, my words are getting mixed up because I'm getting kind of emotional. But yeah, they would just tell their kids, they're like, God didn't show up when we thought he was supposed to. When we thought he was supposed to. So God isn't real. And that's pretty much all these kids knew. That's pretty much all these kids knew. Was that all they pretty much knew, they didn't even know everything. They just pretty much knew God was supposed to come at a certain time and he didn't come. So that means God isn't real. That's pretty much all they knew. And so this 12-year-old boy, he was like 12 or 15, just comes out and tells me, what did God do for us? Why would we put him in earth? He hasn't done anything. And as I was standing on these burnt headsets, I knew in my heart that God had done more for this boy than anyone in his life. And I was just so upset. I was so upset that I didn't even want to fix earth at this point. I felt sorry, I'm just getting very emotional. I felt awful just hearing this like 12-year-old boy just saying God's never done anything for him. It wasn't true. People just need to read their Bible more and they would have known that God comes again. You don't have to worry. That wasn't the only time he was coming. He comes one more time. You still have a chance to make it into the kingdom. But people didn't read their Bible enough, so they didn't know that. So then after the boy had said this in my dream, the Antichrist showed up. Like, I'm not going to lie, it really was the Antichrist. He showed up. And in my dream, I had to stop talking because I was just so upset about what that boy said and how other people were agreeing with him. Yeah, the other people that were willing to help fix earth were agreeing with him. And I was just so upset about it. And then the Antichrist showed up. Yeah, the Antichrist showed up. He showed up in a helicopter. And in my dream, this is how the Antichrist showed himself in my dream. He was in a helicopter, and there was 2 helicopters. I kind of felt like this part was like a joke that God threw in for me because it was honestly funny. So the Antichrist is climbing on a ladder to get down from the helicopter. And like I like to mention, there was 2 helicopters. And the way the lights on the helicopter looked, it looked like the heavenly lights, but it was actually just the lights from the helicopter. But it looked like heavenly lights were aiming at the Antichrist. But it was actually just the lights from the helicopter, and I felt like that was a joke that God put in there just because it's just so funny how the helicopter light looked like the heavenly lights we expect God to come on. It just was just so funny, and I felt like it was just a joke God put in there for me, and I just felt like it was really funny. But let's continue. As the Antichrist got off the helicopter, it was just, this is how it felt. Like, if you ever seen that song, hey, it's nice to meet you. Hey, it's nice to meet you. Have you ever heard that song? That's kind of how the Antichrist was. He was just like going all around to all these people, and he was like, hey, it's nice to meet you. And he was like almost like promising them false things. He's like, hey, it's nice to meet you. Like, he was becoming everyone's like best friend like really quick, as the best way to explain it, I guess. Like, everyone thought he was this amazing guy. And then this is what the Antichrist says. He's like, hey, y'all are going to try to fix Earth, right? And they're like, yeah, we're going to try to fix Earth. And he's like, that's good. He's like, I've been waiting for someone to come out and say they want to fix Earth before I came out and decided to do it. Yeah, it doesn't exactly make sense. That was a bit fishy when he said that. He's like, I was waiting on someone to come out and say they wanted to fix Earth, and then I was going to come out and do it? I know, this sounds a little fishy, just the way he said that in my dream. And then, this is so creepy. In my dream, he said this, and it sounded so creepy in my dream. He said, I couldn't do it without you. And he was like looking at everybody, and he's like, I couldn't do it without you. Like, it just sounded so creepy the way he said that in my dream. And, all these people are just, like, looking at him, and they just start, like, basically asking him, like, what's your plan to fix Earth? And then he came out with these machines. I don't even know exactly how to explain them. I don't even know exactly how to explain these machines. But, he's telling everybody, I can fix Earth with these machines. And they're like, that's awesome. Like, everyone's like cheering him on. They're like, yes, fix Earth. Fix Earth. Like, everyone's just like cheering the Antichrist on. And then Antichrist fixed Earth. But in my dream, I was looking at these machines, and I knew he hadn't fixed Earth. It was all a trick. All a trick. All a trick. All a trick. See, these machines didn't fix the grass. Like I said, it was just dirt. Just plain dirt. Like, there was no grass to be seen. And in my dream, the Antichrist was not fixing Earth, but he tricked people into believing he was. He was, if anything, making Earth worse than what it was before. The grass he was doing was fake. It wasn't real grass. Like, in my dream, he was just like painting it to make it look like grass, but it was all fake. Like, everything he was doing was fake. It was as if he was like spraying stuff in the sky to make it not look that color. It wasn't actually fixed. The air was still probably bad, but he was just like basically spraying stuff in the sky to make it look like it used to. How the sky is originally blue. In my dream, like I said, it was gray, purple, and green. He was just like spraying stuff in the air to make it not look gray. Because in human minds, he's like, if it looks healthy, then they'll think it's healthy. And that's exactly what he was doing. He was like, if it looks healthy, people will think it's healthy. But he wasn't actually fixing it. He was just making it look healthy when it actually wasn't healthy. And it was probably worse off than it was before. Like, he was like painting the grass. Like, he was spraying. It looked like paint. And it looked like grass. But it wasn't actually grass. Like, everything he was doing for Earth made it look healthy. But it wasn't actually healthy. And it wasn't fixing it. And I knew what he did on Earth would only last maybe 3 or 5 years. And then we would be right back to where we originally were, if not worse, because what he was doing wasn't helping Earth. It was actually making Earth worse. It's just, that's all the Antichrist wanted, was for this moment. He wanted it to look like he had fixed Earth. He wanted people to believe he had fixed Earth. When he didn't, everything he was doing was just making Earth worse. But all he cared about was people believing that he fixed Earth. So, after the Antichrist had kind of fixed Earth, he went into his house. He had like this house. I guess we had gave it to him. I don't know. But he had a house. And the Antichrist, like, is by his doorway. Like, he was almost out of the house but not out. And he looks like at everybody. Like, everybody that had been helping fix Earth. He looks at, like, everybody. And he's like, so, I fixed Earth. And they're like, yeah, you fixed Earth. Like, everyone's nodding their head. And they're like, yeah, you fixed Earth. And in my dream, he was wearing a red robe. And it had gold on it. And I would like to mention, I forgot to mention this. Before the Antichrist was in his house and all that. When he got off the helicopter, he was wearing holy colors. He was wearing white, like a white robe. Like, it was just so hilarious because I knew he was such a fake and he wasn't this good guy he was trying to be. But as he was getting off the helicopters, he was dressing in like the most, like what people consider to be holy colors. But once he started revealing himself, he swapped clothes and he started wearing evil colors. Started coming out with his true colors. And at this moment, he had swapped clothes and he was wearing a red robe with gold. And he still had kind of the holy colors underneath his robe, but it was as if he was trying to hide them. Like, he's like, I don't want anyone to see these holy colors. Like, I'm not even supposed to be wearing them. That's what it really felt like. And in my dream, he's in his house, and like I said, he had called everyone that had helped fix Earth. And he's like, I didn't ask for anything in return for fixing Earth. And in my dream, it felt like he was kind of like drunk. That's kind of how like he was acting. Like, he had been drinking a little, but not enough to like mess up what he was saying or anything, I guess. But he had been drinking like a little. And like his true colors are finally coming out. And so Antichrist is like, I didn't ask for anything in return for fixing Earth, did I? I didn't ask for anything. And everyone's like, no, you didn't ask for anything. They're like, you didn't ask for money, nothing. And he's like, okay. He's like, if y'all want to keep Earth like this, if y'all want to keep Earth the way he had kind of fixed it, even though he didn't really fix it, he's like, sign this piece of paper. In my dream, it kind of looked like the scroll Santa Claus has. And I'm like, you didn't fix Earth. I don't do Christmas because it's wrong, but I just use that as an example because that's honestly what it looked like. The Antichrist had this like scroll, like piece of paper, and it looked like kind of like the list Santa Claus has. And I'm just like, no, this isn't good. This isn't good. And I knew that list that he had, and he was asking people, he's like, I didn't ask for anything for fixing Earth. He's like, if you want to keep Earth this way, just sign this piece of paper. Just sign this piece of paper. And I knew that piece of paper was the mark of the beast. It was horrible. It was just like signing your life away. And then, of course, these people just were like, yeah, we're going to sign this piece of paper. Oh, that piece of paper had horrible, horrible things in it. And then when I would walk up to people and I would point out, I'm like, did you see this on the piece of paper? They're like, oh, he's such a nice guy. He would never make us actually do that. That's what they would say. They're like, this dude is such a nice guy. He would never actually make us do the bad thing that's written in here. He's like, he would never make us do that. He's too nice of a guy. And I'm like, I wanted to like almost cry. Like, no one would believe me. No one would believe me that he would actually do this bad stuff that was written in this list. And I'm like, by signing this list, you're basically throwing your life away. And there was people that wouldn't even read the list. They were just signing it without even reading it. And in my dream, there was a long, long line of people waiting to sign the paper. Like, this line was so long. It was like miles and miles. It went on forever, I guess. It was bad. Bad. And in this line, there was this line waiting to sign the paper, which was actually the mark of the beast. There was old people, young people, teenagers. There was like any age group. And people were literally signing this without even reading it. They were signing their life away. It was horrible. There was terrible things written. Terrible things written in this. And of course, I did not want to sign this. I was like, I am not signing this. This is awful. And so I'm standing right by the paper where people are lined up to sign it. And the Antichrist like comes over to me. And he's basically asked me, he's kind of like asking, am I going to sign the paper? And he looks at me and he's like, if you sign that piece of paper, I'll give you this. And he shows me this ring. It was a ring. It had like a flat diamond on it. Yeah, the Antichrist shows me this ring, and it has a flat diamond on it. A flat diamond. And on the side of this ring, it was like gold, And on the side of the ring, it said, I love you. And from the moment I saw the ring and I saw that it said, I love you, and the Antichrist was trying to give it to me, I knew, like, it was like, that love you, I could feel it was the fakest love in, like, history. I'm like, you don't actually love me. Like, this was the fakest love in history. And then the Antichrist, he just kind of tells me, he's like, if you sign that piece of paper, I'll give you this diamond ring. Like, he, like, just thought I would give up God for a diamond ring. I was like, I just kind of look, like, I'm probably, like, in my dream, I was probably looking, like, astonished he would even offer me that. And in that piece of paper was written, if you did not sign the piece of paper, people that had signed it could kill you and they wouldn't go to jail. That's what was written in the piece of paper. And I knew if I told him that I wasn't going to sign that piece of paper, I was standing right next to the people that were signing it, I knew he would probably just tell him to kill me right on the spot. So instead, I told him, I said, can you give me some time to think about it? I asked him if he could give me one day to think about signing it, to think over what he had offered me. And so he agreed. He said that he would give me some time to think about it. And I'm like, okay. And in my dream, I just, like, walked home. I didn't want him to see that I was kind of running, but I guess you can say fast walking. I'm like, if he sees me running, he probably knows what my plan is. So I went home, and in my dream, I had an army backpack, which I don't currently have an army backpack, but in my dream I did. It was like camouflage, and it was an army backpack. And I started putting things in it. And my thing was I was going to run away as far as I could get from the Antichrist. Because I knew if I stayed here, and of course I was not willing to sign that piece of paper. It was awful. It was giving your life to the devil pretty much. That's what it was. And as I would like to mention, there was no point. The Antichrist knew everything about a lot of people. He knew everything about a lot of people. And it was because of those headsets. He used the headsets to know everything about people. And so the Antichrist knew everything about almost everyone. It just took putting the helmet on one time. And almost everyone put on the helmet. So the Antichrist knew the whole helmet thing was used so the Antichrist would know everything about you. That's what the helmets were used for, which still creepy. I don't want anyone probably knowing anything about me. I mean, unless it's like God, because I know God wouldn't use it for evil. But yeah, it was like creepy. And if they ever do come out with helmets, I don't plan to ever wear them. Like, that dream has made me, like, scared of ever wearing them. And in the dream, like I said, I had an army backpack and I was putting different things in it. And so my plan was to run away and get as far away as I could from the Antichrist. Because I knew if I didn't leave right now, it would be too late. I knew that the Antichrist would have, like, security cameras watching us. He would have people on alert, ready to kill anyone that doesn't sign the paper. I was like, I gotta get out of here. It was like, I get out of here now, or I'm not gonna have a chance to get out of here. So I started packing my bag, and I couldn't bring any phones, any electronic devices, because they would track you with them. That's what they were doing in my dream. If you had any electronic devices like a phone, tablet, etc., they would track you and they would find you and kill you. So you couldn't bring any phones or anything like that. The safest thing in my dream was a walkie-talkie. And that wasn't even safe because during the time you were talking to somebody on it, they could track you. If the walkie-talkie was off, they couldn't track you. But if you were talking to somebody on it, they could track you. So I started running into the forest. I got my backpack, put my things in it that I thought I could take, and I just ran into the forest. And I tried to get as far away as I could from the Antichrist because they were going to send people into the forest to look for people that hadn't signed the paper. And I'm like, I gotta run as far as I can. I'm like, if I don't run far enough, the Antichrist will find me. And in my dream, after I had left, basically the Antichrist had revealed his true colors, and he had basically brought hell on earth is the best way to explain it. The best way to explain it is that the Antichrist had basically brought hell on earth. And I escaped into the forest, and my plan was just to keep running. And in my dream, I think I remember I ran, and I found like a campsite where there was other people that weren't willing to sign that piece of paper. And I was staying with them, and the people at this camp were like very cautious about like knowing people that had electronic devices and stuff, because they didn't want to be tracked and be found and killed. That was awful. Yeah, and they were just very cautious about like people that had electronic devices. And the only electronic device I think we had at our campsite, like I said, was a walkie-talkie. And they were even like scared when people were using them, because like I said, when we were using them, they could track us. But when we weren't using it, they couldn't track us. And people were just like, they were very cautious, almost not wanting us to use them at all. And it was pretty scary. I mean, in my dream, I don't remember ever being scared, because I guess I knew God was with me. As long as we got God, we are safe. And then after this happened, like I said, the Antichrist had practically just brought hell on earth. The people that had signed that piece of paper, it was just awful. Just awful. They had basically given up their life. It was awful. And if I remember correctly, I think after the Antichrist and all that, God didn't like immediately come. Like, he didn't immediately come and just save everybody, because he wants to teach us a lesson. But in my dream, this is where I kind of had woke up after the campsite thing. But I do believe, and I still believe, that after the campsite thing, I think God would have eventually returned. I really think that's what would have happened. I think God would have eventually returned. And like I said, when I was at the campsite in the forest, that's pretty much where the dream ended, and I woke up. But like I was trying to say, I think if I wouldn't have woken up and the dream would have continued, I think God would have returned. And that was pretty much the whole dream. Thanks for watching. That was such a crazy dream. Like, I think people watching aren't even going to believe I had it. That dream was just crazy. Truly a blessing from God. And thanks for watching my Rapture dream. And I guess, bye for now.